Okay, well, I have my new Playsport ZX5 in, and I just want to show everyone this is my old camera that I've been using to videotape all of my YouTube videos. Sony Handycam TRV 120. It's been a very nice camera. I've had it probably since the mid 1990s. I've had this thing for quite a while. It's been in my family for many years, and it finally gave up the ghost. It's been acting up for the past couple years, but if you own a Sony Handycam, I'm not sure exactly which series, but a lot of the series you would, let's just say, hit it really hard and it would magically start working again. And I beat the crap out of this thing, and it finally there's no way it was turning on, so it was dead. I completely disassembled the whole thing, put 3 volts, 2 battery packs together, wired them in series, put the voltage on the motor. That spit my tape out, so at least I get my tape back, but now it doesn't even have power to close, so this thing's toast. Maybe someday I will get the money to repair that. It is a very nice camera. I think working this thing still costs more than my Sony, or than my brand new Kodak Playsport ZX5, which I purchased for about $90 a year after it was released. This thing, 15 years later, is still worth about $200–300 in good working condition, which it's not, but I'm sure I could get some money if I wanted to sell it for parts, but I would rather just wait until the day that I can get this repaired. The Sony TRV 120 only does a max of 480p at 30 frames a second. Right now I am recording in 60 frames a second at 720 resolution, because I've heard that the 720p at 60 frames per second is the best resolution to have. I'm not going to be using it for a lot of fast action stuff. I'm going to be using it just for basically tutorials for my car video, tutorials for this or that, just anything I want to throw up on my YouTube channel, which is that one, DJ Devon 3 channel. That's me, and this is probably where you're watching it. Some of the positives and negatives of switching to something like a Playsport compared to a full camcorder. Number one, and most importantly, this thing is very small. Do you think you could fit this in your pocket? No. This also weighs 3 pounds. I have an extra large battery on the back, which is a good amount of weight. The Kodak Playsport has an instant startup sequence, whereas something like this will take about 10 seconds to start up. And you get your screen that lights up, and you get your startup sequence, and then it says it's ready to record. The Playsport is ready to record almost instantaneously. It probably takes 2 seconds max. You turn it on, it's an instant on. As soon as you hit the power button for the Playsport, it's on, and then you can hit record and it starts recording, no qualms about it. I really like that. Let's just say you're driving along and you catch an emergency or one of those things that you need to just whip out a camera and hit record, for whatever reason, that you cannot do that with something like this. So the reaction time, let's just say, is a lot better. Between the time that you pick up your camera, turn it on, and actually start filming is a lot faster. And that can be really neat for photographers as well, in some circumstances where you just need to get to something quick to start recording. I really like the interface. Everything's really easy to use. I don't have a mirror or anything, but so far I've only had this on so far for about 5 minutes. This is the very first impression I have of it. One drawback that I can see, and possibly why it has so many issues with blank screens and just randomly dying or things like that, is because it's an encapsulated system. The battery, unlike something like this that you can take out, the Playsport battery is completely enclosed inside the unit. And can you guess what happens because of that? It gets hot, really hot. So you're looking at, maybe possibly solder fractures, microfractures of the soldering joints over time. And of course, because it's waterproof and marketed as waterproof, there are no vent holes for it. And it runs really cool comparatively because there's no heat dissipation except through the case. And I think it does a really good job. However, a lot of reviews said that over the lifetime of the camera, that's not such a good thing. Now, if you're only interested in blogging about, tutorials, car stuff like that, I might actually go and think about drilling some holes into the case to vent some of that air. I do not ever plan on taking this underwater. It's not really a big deal for me. Those are some of my first impressions, and I'm really liking it so far. I mean, the movement on the LCD screen is really good. There's a little bit of time lag. Let's just say, 10 milliseconds, something like that. It's not real big, and it's not big enough to throw you off of what you're filming. Lag, latency, whatever you want to call it, it's there. Let's see, another good thing is this camera here is not shockproof. So let's just say I took this in my car, and what I was doing was mounting it to a big hardware mount on the roof of my car upside down. And whenever I would hit a bump, it would hit the shock sensor in here, thinking that this had been dropped. And unlike a lot of new cameras, shock sensors in the old one turn the camera off for whatever reason, to try and prevent damage or whatever. The new ones, like the Playsport, this guy right here, does not have a shock sensor. It is shockproof, which is really good, and it's digital, where this is film, so that's a big difference. So you can continue recording while you're getting jostled around. I know I've seen a lot of stuff where people are using it on bicycles, motorcycles, ATVs, cars. It's not a GoPro, but it's similar enough to be somewhat competitive at a $90 price tag versus, let's say, a GoPro's $150 to $200. For the new GoPro 2s, that's going to be upwards of like $300. So for $100 with an SD card, because I have a 16 gigabyte SD card in here that cost me about 20 to 30 bucks. So overall, right now you're looking at about $100 as of March 29th, 2012. $90 for the Playsport, and another $20 to $30 for a 16 gigabyte Class 6. I went with Class 6. You need at least Class 4. I went with Class 6. And so those are some of my first impressions so far, after owning and turning it on for about 10 minutes. Since I was used to using the Sony for editing, this is Adobe Premiere. Since I was used to editing in 480p, standard NTSC 29.97 frames per second, moving up to something like 720p at 60 frames a second, you're going to need to create a custom preset in order to edit your video. And one thing I discovered once I started importing these videos is that the Playsport records in mono. And if you're used to editing, you almost always, for NTSC, use stereo. So what happened was, when I began recording, or when I began importing, there was no audio. I mean, just imagine that this audio here is gone, because by default, in the default presets, this is stereo channel. You have to enable a custom preset that has mono audio, and then you'll be able to get your audio controls and all of your audio filters back so that you can edit audio. But even though it is mono audio, I can't tell a difference between the audio here and the audio in my Sony Handycam. The audio levels, when you are a couple of feet away, are almost identical. It is as good as an NTSC HD or SD video camera, film video camera. Now the quality at 720p is very good, very comparable to a film video camera or camcorder. So that's just something that I kind of found out while I was editing in Premiere. Let's just say when you do new sequence or you start a new project, you want to go to the AVC HD profile. Use that as a starting point to get your 720p at 60 frames per second preset, and then you modify by going to the track tab at the top, go to tracks, and then you'll see by default it gives you 3 stereo tracks. What you want to do is just delete those stereo because you're not going to be using stereo anyway, and if you do, you can always add one ad hoc at the bottom. You instead go with mono. Add one mono track and will automatically import your audio from your Playsport ZX5 into your timeline down there. I just thought I wanted to share that. I'm not sure if I've ever recorded my mount because I've only used it one time with my camcorder. My camcorder is 3 pounds, so I needed a really heavy-duty mount. I'm not going to need a heavy-duty mount for this little guy. The Playsport ZX5 is a tiny little thing, so this is way overkill. But I still have this mount, and I'm going to use it because what I can do with this is suction cup this to the roof of my car. Well, let's just say my moonroof, because I use it up against the glass, so the sunroof / moonroof. And then I will hang the, well, let's just say now it's going to be the Playsport ZX5 upside down, and then once I'm done recording, I'll take it into Premiere and I'll just invert the video. And that's how I'm going to do that. So I'm going to go take a night drive just to check how it is out on night driving and record some night driving footage. Okay, so I'm out driving with the Playsport. Oh, fucking. There goes my mount. That fucking sucks. Nope, that's not gonna work. Okay, so no, I'm not driving the 626, which is why I'm actually, I don't know, driving somewhere. Our brakes are squeaking. I'm gonna have to fix that. Saturn's worse than the 626. There's always something to fix. Oh shit. I got an ambulance. I can't tell which lane he's in. Which lane is he in? Let's try this again. Wow. Yeah, I've pulled on this mount more than a couple times now. It's not going anywhere. I should have tested it first.